Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for tuning in to our channel. You're watching The Opinion Factor, and we have Miss Ambreen with us today. And I would rather say, Ambreen, please introduce yourself.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Assalamu alaikum, Madiha. Thank you for inviting me today. My name is Ambreen Haris. I am currently the CEO for CareForHealth. CareForHealth is a mental health initiative. It's a mental health NGO. And we actually are focused on doing rehabilitation, counseling services, support groups as our community outreach programs. We also do workshops and seminars. Our basic purpose is to reduce the stigma surrounding mental health and to create mental health awareness and education and try to reduce the treatment gap. Also, I am also teaching as an adjunct faculty at Institute of Business Management since last 15 years.
Oh, okay, mashallah. Great. So, Amreen, tell me, what is mental wellness? For a person, आजकल बहुत buzzword चल रहा है ना इस तरह के, मतलब mental well-being या mental wellness, mindfulness, और ऐसे बहुत सारे words होते हैं जिसको लोग आपस में confuse करते रहते हैं. So tell me, for a layman who's watching this show, what is like mental well-being?
Mental health, zehni sehat. I think the word mental health, zehni sehat, encompasses everything. Last year, in fact, back in 2021, on World Mental Health Day, the theme was mental health in an unequal world. So we saw the disparity between the treatment gap between getting help for mental health. Last year in 2022, the theme changed. And it was not just mental health, it was mental health and well-being, a global opportunity for all. So well-being has been added to the mental health because we've seen that since the pandemic, the need has become extremely great. और पाकिस्तान में तो extra, so अगर हम I don't use any definitions for mental health because I think जो World Health Organization ने हमें definition दी है mental health and well-being की, I think that is a brilliant definition. We can definitely break that up and understand it in a much clearer way. So according to World Health Organization, mental health and well-being is a state of well-being that allows any individual to cope with normal stresses of life, do day-to-day activities, can do self-care, and become functional individuals of the society. So it is a very, I think, comprehensive definition of mental health. And as you can see, they talk about the state of well-being. So I will just break down the definition of well-being actually. Okay, what is well-being? Okay, so well-being, so well-being is actually, what kind of well-being is there? So number one, let's start from the emotional well-being. So when I'm doing a seminar and I start with emotions, that do we have a permission to feel? So emotional well-being meaning your feelings. What kind of feelings you have? Can you actually analyze your feelings? Can you actually name your feelings? All right. So the first thing in well-being is to understand your emotional well-being. And then another factor of well-being would be the psychological well-being. Psychological well-being meaning the mind. All right. So it's all together. So how I feel is going to affect on how I think. So mind is how I am going to think. And then the next thing is the social well-being. We don't live in isolation, unfortunately. We live in a society. And if we live in a society, it gives us, there's all these different kind of factors which are going to continuously affect us. They're all going to trigger us. All right. So the social well-being. So I think when we talk about mental health, it's actually to create a balance between the emotional, psychological, and social well-being, so that we can actually take stress of day-to-day activities. We can actually perform our functions We can take the pressures of यहाँ पे अगर मैं बात करूं, जो मैंने अभी बात की थी कि सोशल वेलबींग की, तो सिर्फ सोशल नहीं, आई थिंक लेट्स टेक ऑल थ्री फैक्टर्स ऑफ वेलबींग, इमोशनल, साइकोलॉजिकल एंड सोशल. तो उसके अंदर देयर आर बेसिकली, आई वुड से देयर हमारे जो ट्रिगरिंग फैक्टर्स होते हैं, triggering factors in the environment which can might cause a stress. So they can be physical factors. आप बीमार हो गए, आपको फ्लू हो गया, physical factor, it's going to create some stress. ठीक है, आप अभी recently we went to this thalassemia clinic, and there was a physical stress we saw there, but with the physical stress there was an emotional stress also. All right, just saying that another triggering factor can be the interpersonal factor. Interpersonal factor is very much related to the social factor which I was talking about. So interpersonal factor is like, when we have a conflict in the house, maybe a relationship conflict, parental conflict, parent-child conflict, friends conflict, overall, there's so many interpersonal, you have a fight with a friend, you have a fight with the boss harasses you, there can be so many interpersonal conflicts. And then another thing which can affect is intrapersonal. Intrapersonal also affects our psychological and emotional well-being. Intrapersonal is when in your mind you think, oh, I'm a loser, oh, I can't do this, So those kind of triggering factors sometimes, and there's a whole science behind it, that why does a person have a low self-esteem? So there's a whole science behind that as well. And then I would also say environmental factors. For me, I think we have a lot of environmental factors. You wake up in the morning, there will be, say, no gas, there will be no water. You go out, your children go out, you're just scared, maybe, something might happen. Then the traffic jams, the state of the road, then inflation, unemployment, there's so many, just to name a few. So I think these are all different kind of factors that usually affect our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. So mental health, in my opinion, is a state of well-being which actually helps us to cope with stress, to cope with day-to-day pressures, so that we can become functional human beings of the society.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very good definition to follow.
आजकल अगर आप देखें, and it's a global trend, I think, जैसे stats बताती है कि 1 in 5 people might suffer from some kind of a mental health problem.
बल्कि सॉरी नहीं नहीं, पहले आप कंटिन्यू करें, मैं फिर बोलती हूँ.
नहीं, it's fine. So yeah, आप पूछिए please.
मैं बस ये पूछ रही थी कि आपने 1 in 5 का नंबर बताया ना. मैंने
जी.
कुछ अर्से पहले आई वाज लाइक ड्राइविंग समवेयर, एंड एक रमजान, इस वाले नहीं, पहले वाले रमजान में ना, लाइक वो होता है ना, ज़कात कैंपेन्स वगैरह चल रही होती हैं. So there was some, I don't remember the organization, but they basically work for like, mental health. So उसमें लिखा हुआ था कि 1 in every 4 Pakistani is suffering from or is going through depression. So I was like totally surprised. That's like 25% of our people.
I'm not sure if it has to be backed with evidence and statistics, right? So I won't quote any numbers for depression. Basically, I do have figures for from the World Health Organizations with respect to all the different kind of disorders.
Okay.
I do have those stats. I can share them with you later on.
Sure.
But according to what I know, is 1 in 5 people, or you can say 1 in 4 people. Some literature says 1 in 8 people, but they mostly talk about that they suffer from some kind of mental health problem. So I would not really put a name to the mental health problem at the moment, but it's 1 in 4 people, 1 in 5 people, and I think that is a very valid statistic, seeing that the happiness trend. मैं एक Gallup की report पढ़ रही थी 2021 की, and I was seeing that it said that the happiness trend, there's a happiness trend that they calculate that has been going down since the last 2 decades, and it has been further triggered by the pandemic. And Pakistan is in the lowest percentile. I think it's above Syria. So Yes, so according to that report, so happiness trend. So we were talking about mental health की जो बात करें तो happiness trend ही एक नीचे जा रहा है and globally नीचे जा रहा है. अगर आप देखें तो अब मेंटल हेल्थ की अगर हम बात करते हैं यहाँ पे या हम मेंटल हेल्थ एंड वेलबींग की कर लेते हैं. लेट्स ब्रॉडन आवर वर्ड क्योंकि इफ यू रिमेम्बर ये जो हमारा मेंटल हेल्थ में अब ये चेंज हुए हैं वर्ड्स. सो वी आर बीइंग वेरी पर्टिकुलर अबाउट द काइंड ऑफ टर्मिनोलॉजी वी यूज आल्सो. सो लेट्स टेक द वर्ड मेंटल हेल्थ विद वेलबींग आल्सो क्योंकि पहले हमारा ये ब्रिटिश राज से आ रहा है ये सारा और इट यूज्ड टू बी कॉल्ड द ल्यूनेसी एक्ट. सो छोटे या सोचे किस टाइप के वर्ड्स यूज किए जाते थे इस
एक
फील्ड
बात
के
तो
अंदर. जी
मैं
जी.
ना आई वाज डूइंग एन ऑनलाइन कोर्स लाइक रिसेंटली. सो इट वाज अबाउट, अगेन इट हेल्प मी अंडरस्टैंड कि ये स्टिग्मा सारा आया किधर से है ना. बिकॉज लाइक 200 साल की हिस्ट्री होगी एंड इट वाज अ कैनेडियन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन दैट वाज डूइंग इट. सो लाइक हम लोग ऑनलाइन पढ़ रहे थे. सो बेसिकली वेस्टर्न वर्ल्ड की ज्यादा, इंडिया पाकिस्तान की तो कम बात हुई थी. बट इवन वहां पे भी अगर आप पूरी 200 साल की हिस्ट्री देखें कि हाउ दिस होल सिनेरियो ऑफ मेंटल वेलबीइंग हैज डेवलप्ड, तो वहां पे भी जो असाइलम्स होते थे दे वर कॉल्ड लुनाटिक असाइलम्स, जिनको हम उर्दू में शायद पागल
एब्सोल्युटली.
खाना कहते हैं, राइट. सो अगेन वो वर्ड ही लुनाटिक ही और असाइलम, अगेन ये दोनों वर्ड्स ही इतने नेगेटिव कॉनोटेशन के हैं कि देन दे हैड टू लाइक जब तरक्की हुई एंड कोई पिछले 50 60 70 साल पहले उन्होंने रीनेम करने शुरू किए अपने सेंटर्स को एंड लुनाटिक असाइलम से वो बने मेंटल हॉस्पिटल. देन वो इस तरह करते करते अब नाउ देयर मेंटल वेलबीइंग के ऊपर वो आ गए एंड प्रोबेबली.
एब्सोल्युटली.
या सो दैट
और
इज
80s में जाके दे हैव एक्चुअली चेंज्ड. एक्चुअली इन द 80s दे हैव एक्चुअली चेंज्ड. जब उससे पहले यूनिसी एक्ट चल रहा था और इस तरह यूनिटिक्स बोल रहे थे. और हमारे यहाँ भी अगर आप सोचे हम कहते थे हैदराबाद में एक है इतना बड़ा तो
पागल खाना.
हाँ तो दे वुड यूज दीज वर्ड्स लाइक पागल एंड ऑल दीज विदाउट थिंकिंग. सो आई थिंक सबसे पहली चीज जो है अगर हम स्टिग्मा की बात करें विच इज माई sole purpose of running the Care for Health NGO is to
हम्म.
reduce this stigma and to educate people. Like अच्छे खासे पढ़े लिखे लोग जब इस टाइप का वर्ड बगैर सोचे समझे यूज करते हैं जैसे ये साइको या पागल या so it's just like it's just not acceptable. I think it's just not acceptable. I think it's time with education, uh, uh, with not even with education. I think it's basic courtesy that we should not be just calling names. I think it is just like an abusive name to call somebody. So I think we need to be very careful on what kind of terminology we use. So I'm really working hard on making sure that we use the right terminology, starting from my own house, even starting from my friend circle, starting from the university, starting from the youth that I'm teaching, starting from my own NGO, starting from our own team to our own clients who come to us for counseling or rehabilitation. I think it is very important that first of all we start to respect everyone. That is the first basic of, I think, inclusion and diversity. So we need to start accepting it. Believe me, Madhya, एक मैं आपको मजे का एक जिक्र बताऊं. अगर मैं if I digress from the conversation, do let me know. Sometimes I go all over the place. So एक आपको एक मजे का वाकया बताऊं. मजे का तो नहीं कहेंगे. It's a heartbreaking for me. Um, when we started Care for Health, so it started back in 2012. I
हम्म.
joined as CEO back during the COVID times, actually, during the pandemic. And the basic purpose जिसके लिए start किया गया था वो ये था कि सिर्फ rehabilitation और counseling ही नहीं करेंगे. In order to make them functional human beings, we'll try to reintegrate them into society by providing them some kind of a job also. And unfortunately, what happens is if a company or anybody knows that this person has gone through some kind of a mental illness, some kind of a emotional problem, psychological problem, कोई भी ऐसा आता है इनको, तो they are not willing to give them job. किसी का disclose नहीं हुआ होगा कि जैसे उसको फिर भी जॉब दे देंगे बिकॉज डिस्क्लोज नहीं है. और वो लोग जो कि have gone through the counseling process, have gone through the rehabilitation process, उनको नहीं देता कोई भी help. There was one client of ours 2 years ago. तो मैंने किसी से कहा कि आप उनको ना he could drive. So मैंने किसी से कहा कि आप उनको फाइनेंस कर दें कि maybe you can give them a rickshaw or something and maybe then he can like have a like he can have some kind of a work. And that person also had requested me that if he can get, because he had 3 daughters, and he said, I don't want to send them on a bus, so maybe I can drop them off to school also, and then I can earn some kind of a respectable income also. But believe me, Matiya, जिनसे भी मैंने रिक्वेस्ट की उन्होंने कहा नहीं, हो सकता है इनको दोबारा रिलैप्स हो जाए, so मतलब this is the kind of psyche we have here in our country. So, and maybe they are also right in the sense that there is so much unemployment, there's so much inflation, there is so much, so many problems. I don't think I'll justify the action of those people who said no to me regarding that, but everybody's carrying their own baggage, I feel. So we're not in any position to judge anybody for their decisions. But just to let you know how mental health is stigmatized in Pakistan.
Actually, I believe पूरी दुनिया में ही it is kind of stigmatized.
बिल्कुल, I
अब
agree.
हाँ, पाकिस्तान ऑलरेडी क्योंकि डेवलपिंग कंट्री है तो वैसे ही थोड़े बैकवर्ड हैं, तो हमारे पास थोड़ा ज्यादा ही स्टिग्मा है. बट या सबसे बेहतर तरीका यही है कि आप जो वर्ड्स इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं उसके बारे में वो नेगेटिव ना हो. तो जैसे कि हमने एग्जांपल अभी डिस्कस की कि पहले वेस्ट में भी लुनाटिक असाइलम हुआ करता था, जो कि अब नहीं
Absolutely.
होता. तो वंस यू, आई थिंक 1-2 जनरेशन्स के बाद अगर आप पॉजिटिव टर्मिनोलॉजी इस्तेमाल करना शुरू कर दें, सो आई बिलीव कि 1-2 जनरेशन्स के बाद चीजें काफी बेहतर हो जाएंगी. बहरहाल इस जनरेशन का क्या
इंशाल्लाह,
करना है.
बिल्कुल, I agree completely, I agree. और पाकिस्तान में unfortunately we have had some incidents also in Pakistan, I would say, जिसकी वजह से I feel that we have a huge treatment gap. In the sense we don't have a lot of psychiatrists. So, for example, for 100,000, I'm quoting it from a paper back in 2020 का Lancet Psychiatry का paper है, उस पे मैं I'm quoting this, that 0.19 psychiatrist per 100,000 patients. 0.19 क्या होता है? सोचें आप. अभी 2 दिन पहले खबर आई है 41 people committed suicide in Thatta, and that was reported.
41.
41 people committed suicide in Thatta on that, और अभी 2 दिन पहले I think I read it in some newspaper, और I think online newspaper में पढ़ा था मैंने. It was, I don't know, Dawn थी कौन सी थी, but and this is a reported case. So सोचिए unreported cases भी तो थे. This were all registered in their police station. So हाँ, आप सोचिए ना क्या हालात क्या है हमारे. और अनफॉर्चुनेटली क्लाइमेट चेंज भी बहुत बुरी तरीके से अफेक्ट कर रहे हैं हमारे यहाँ. सो जो मैं एनवायरमेंटल ट्रिगर्स की बात कर रही थी तो वो भी तो अफेक्ट कर रहे हैं. अकॉर्डिंग टू एक मैं कोई आर्टिकल पढ़ रही थी और उसमें था कि एटलीस्ट 33 million people and around approximately 16 million children, who have actually suffered during this last monsoon season.
बिल्कुल, you're
उसमें
right,
वो
you're right.
डिस्प्लेसमेंट भी है, उसमें उनके डिस्प्लेस्ड हो गए अपनी जगहों से, उनकी खेती बाड़ी, उनका कैटल, इट ऑल गॉट फिनिश्ड. बहुत सी डेथ्स हो गई ऑफ क्लोज फैमिली मेंबर्स, आई एम श्योर. तो दे हैव बीन सो डिस्प्लेस्ड. और देखो ना, ये अभी अभी लास्ट ईयर की बात है, इट्स लास्ट ईयर, एंड अगेन द मॉनसून्स आर कमिंग. सो हाउ मच वी नीड lay counseling also on the ground.
हाँ, ये बात तो है वैसे. नाउ इट्स अ बिट स्कैरी, इट्स गेटिंग अ बिट स्कैरी फॉर मी. बट अच्छा, वैसे ये जो बात है ना कि आपने जो नंबर बताया कि पर 100,000 पीपल 0.9 का
0.19
अच्छा, पॉइंट वन
psychiatrists per
नाइन
100,000
ओके.
100,000 clients, patients.
ओके, आई थिंक
So समझे आप less than 500 psychiatrists हैं हमारे according to 2020.
वैसे आप अगर आप जजेस को और टीचर्स को काउंट करें तो वो भी कम है हमारे मुल्क में. आई मीन टू से कि जितने केसेस पेंडिंग है, आई वाज जस्ट रीडिंग समवेयर कि इतने सारे केसेस पेंडिंग है और इतना जो
I agree completely. I
जजमेंट सिस्टम का
totally
बैकलॉग
agree.
है. सिमिलरली एजुकेशन है, सिमिलरली दूसरे डॉक्टर्स हैं, लाइक नॉट इवन मेंटल हेल्थ. अगर आप फिजिशियंस की बात करें, सो ओवर पॉपुलेटेड है हम. सो मेंटल हेल्थ तो ऑफ कोर्स फिर तो उसने तो कम होना ही है, जब बाकी सारी चीजें जो कि बेसिकली लोग जिन जो आम जरूरतें हैं उनके लिए ही इतनी शॉर्टेजेस हैं, तो फिर मेंटल हेल्थ को तो लोग वैसे भी थोड़ा सेकेंडरी ट्रीट करते हैं ना. बट या नॉट
बाकी you're
टेकिंग.
right. Although it's I think मुझे exact figures तो नहीं पता कुछ. I think in Pakistan 4% of the disease burden to mental health disorders का है.
ओके.
So
ओके. सो ठीक है, इतनी सारी इंफॉर्मेशन दे दी आपने, मैं थोड़ा एब्जॉर्ब कर रही हूँ. बट एंड बहुत सारे सवालात भी आए जा रहे हैं मेरे दिमाग में, मैं सोच रही हूँ कौन सा पहले पूछूं. बट ये है कि मुझे ये बताएं कि आप लोग जैसे केयर फॉर हेल्थ है, आप लोग एग्जैक्टली क्या कर रहे हैं एंड हाउ आर यू ट्राइंग टू ब्रिज द गैप.
back in 2012, it all started. So my daughter Lala Rukh Haris, she had come back from London. She had completed her PhD in medicine from Cambridge University. So she came back, and her friend Alize Walji, she had also completed her degree in psychology, and they both decided to start Care for Health because they saw a big gap um, here in Pakistan, which was again, I've just been talking about it, how less psychiatrists we have. So what they did was they partnership with hospitals, and so they started this rehabilitation program in which psychiatrists, as you know, are medical doctors and they can prescribe medication. But with medication, you need some kind of a psychosocial support. So they started a rehabilitation through a program which was illness management and recovery program. It's called the IMR program, which is evidence based and it's internationally recognized.
Okay.
So they started this program and they started it with group of people. So JPMC में जो भी psychiatric medication के लिए आता था, and especially patients like severe depression, patients like I would say clients like schizophrenic people who had schizophrenia, who had psychosis, who had even bipolar disorder, and who had severe depression. So what they would do is we had these IMR practitioners who would go to JPMC, Civil, Karwane Hayat, and in a group session, they would conduct IMR with them.
Okay.
And it went on from 6 to 9 months, once a week. और उससे क्या होता था कि they actually saw very positive impact of that. So along with medication, it's quite proven that you need counseling service, you need rehabilitation services also. It's just, it's not just medication. So it has to be a mix of both, especially with people who are suffering from severe mental health disorder. All right. So this is how it started. And then the next thing was reintegration. So reintegration mein kya tha ki they would actually try to get them back into a workplace, a job. Most of the clients that we had were underprivileged because obviously hum jo hospitals cover kar rahe the, they were JPMC, they were Civil, they were Karwane Hayat, and those kind of hospitals. So it was free of charge for those. Or then you try to reintegrate them into society by providing some kind of a job. So this was the basic model. All right. Okay. And then we would do some follow-ups with them also in case there's a relapse. So we would continuously do follow-ups with them. So this is how it started. Then COVID happened.
Okay.
So when COVID happened, all this time, so Care for Health always was able to maintain. Okay. But when COVID happened and we had to reach out to that group who was underprivileged in hospitals, who had some kind, so a severe kind of a mental health disorder. So it was very difficult for us to reach out to them during the COVID. So it was not very safe for our counselors to go there. And even those people, it was a lockdown state. So us state mein kya hua कि we tried to convert them onto online. Okay. So when we did online, so not everybody could be converted to online. obviously, because we were catering to that particular segment, so it was a bit difficult for them to be converted online. तो फिर हमने कोविड में फिर I joined CareForHealth as
Okay.
the CEO because uh, uh, we thought
Mm-hmm.
you need somebody, uh, you know, uh, how would I call myself? Some captain of the ship, you can say, who can maybe manage the whole organization because uh, the co-founders that we have, they are also doing other work because they were in their 20s when they started. They're still trustees of CareForHealth. They're still part of the trustees, and they're still the co-founders. And but main operations are being handled by me because Alize Walji, as you also know, she's also running Saya Health. So she's part of Saya Health also. And I think she is also working very hard in actually changing the whole dynamics of this particular in mental health in Pakistan. So one of another key development that she did was to work with a scheme, and then she works with Sai Health also. CareForHealth is also part of Pakistan Mental Health Coalition, and we are a very active member of the sub committee, which is the expansion committee as well.
Mm-hmm.
So this coalition was also made during the COVID times because we thought that during COVID, we even as CareForHealth, we started getting a lot of calls. We started getting a lot of people reaching out to us for need for mental health. A lot of young people, because I have a lot of reach in universities and I deal with youth. So a lot of young people reached out to us, and they were not with severe mental health conditions. They were with some people needed talk therapy, some needed active listening, some had some mild kind of problems, some had moderate kind of problems. So it was at that time when we decided that we need to expand our work because the need is much more during the pandemic. So what we started doing was that we started to develop a platform. CareForHealth
Mm-hmm.
is a platform. So what we do is we started actually liaison doing a liaison with clinical psychologists,
Okay.
and we are very stringent in taking anybody on board because there's too many quacks also in the industry, as you know. So we want to make sure that if CareForHealth name is being used, so anybody comes to us, uh, so we started counseling. So we have counselors, we have associate clinical psychologists,
Mm-hmm.
and we have counselors, and we have practitioners also. So they come on our platform,
Mm-hmm.
and we try to link them with relevant clients. And any client who comes to us, we try to link them with an expert counselor. So
Mm-hmm.
this is one thing that we do, which is counseling, which we have actually tried to expand on. Another thing which we are currently doing is support groups. Support groups, I'm a big believer of peer support, frankly speaking. Right?
Totally.
And
Yeah.
I believe in support groups. I think that reaching out to communities, especially underprivileged communities, I think support groups really work, and they are quite cost effective also. They are very good for lay counseling also. So we have really tried to work with support groups. Support groups, some contains are there with youth. We do it with women. We do it with vulnerable groups. We have done it with transgenders also. We have done it with people who are suffering, like caregivers whose children are suffering from chronic illnesses. We have done it with women who've been divorced. We have done it with single mothers. We've done it with youth. So I think a support group का फायदा ये होता है कि people are less conscious, and sometimes in public in a form of a group, and I think abroad also इसका बड़ा एक है. So you'll find in USA and UK, you'll find a lot of groups which will be, say, expectant mothers group, or mothers suffering from postnatal depression, prenatal depression, and you'll have like breast cancer groups. You'll have people who have suffered any kind of a loss group. So I think it has a lot of potential, and it does not. It's pretty cost effective also, especially when it comes to lay counseling. especially for the underprivileged, they don't want to talk to you one-on-one. So if we reach out to them one-on-one, they don't really want to talk. But if you put them in a group, they actually talk amongst each other and they support each other. So this is another thing which we're really, really invested in, and we're really doing that now. Another thing that we're doing is seminars and workshops. So
Okay.
seminars हम करते हैं in we do seminars. हमने काफी universities में seminars किए on let's manage stress. हमारी corporate workshops भी होती है. So this is also something we do. It's not just stress management, I would say. So there's a lot of different topics in which we do workshops. Just for example, we can do it on building self-esteem, work-life balance, managing stress, or not just stress. Actually, I would say managing emotions. Managing
Okay.
emotions. So we do all those kind of things also. We are going to start a workshop on psychological first aid, because I think a time aa gaya when we need to have that tip of the, if tip of the iceberg is
Mm-hmm.
psychological first aid. Jitna आप deep
Okay.
down जाए, तो you need a professional, then you need a psychologist, then you need a clinical psychologist, then you need a therapist, psychiatrist. So jitna deeper problem होगी, तो definitely you need that kind of an expert. But I think in schools, in colleges, in general public, जैसे हम first aid सिखाते हैं सबको, वैसे psychological first aid सिखानी चाहिए, ताकि we're listening around us, we're seeing around us. क्योंकि believe me, हमारी youngest population है. Pakistan has the youngest population below the age of 30.
Yeah.
So आप कह सकते हैं कि समझिए तकरीबन 50% से ज्यादा जो लोग हैं वो 30 एज से नीचे हैं, तो ये हमारे फ्यूचर है. ठीक है. और सबसे ज्यादा जो सुसाइड का रेट है वो भी एडोलेसेंस का ही है, एंड इट्स वर्ल्ड ओवर, ग्लोबल. सो द हाईएस्ट रेट ऑफ सुसाइड इज एक्चुअली इन द एडोलेसेंस. सो हमें भी अपना वी हैव टू प्रिजर्व आवर फ्यूचर जनरेशंस, and they have different kinds of stresses and you have no idea. Believe me, Madhya, I have children in teenage also, and they have different kind of stresses which we did not have when we were younger. I think social media को ही ले लें, so it has its pros, it has its cons.
अगला जो मेरा सवाल है वो ये है कि what do you guys do with like mental wellness and in the workplace basically?
I think हमारा जो एक फैक्ट्री वर्कर है, one factory worker and an office employee uh, goes to work at least 1/3 of their lifetime. तो उनका मतलब 1/3 of their lifetime is spent in their workplace. All right. So we have to understand, not at the top management level only, I think at all levels. We have to understand that. Yes, यहाँ पे मैं एक बात जो पहले भी कहना चाह रही थी, मैं दोबारा कहूंगी. स्ट्रेस जो है वो अच्छा स्ट्रेस भी होता है. So I'm not saying that okay, we become those people who are lazy in a workplace even. So there are two kinds of stresses. One stress is a good stress, which we call eustress. It starts with EU. So eustress is good. It's where we perform at the optimum level. But then there's another stress, which is basically distress. And distress से आती है हमारी fatigue, और fatigue से आता है हमारा burnout. Right? And then you want a break. So I was reading this research paper. Actually, I was not reading it. It was part of my research I was doing for my for one of the papers that I was doing. And उसमें मैं ये देखना चाह रही थी कि mental health in a workplace की कितनी return on investment है. So if I invest in mental health, what will be the return on investment on that? Because if we give somebody a statistics and a numerical figure, so I think that makes it more understandable, especially to I think the corporate or the business world. So I was trying to see that. So I was doing some literature, and there was this report by PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC. उनकी एक report थी जिसपे उन्होंने कहा कि investing $1 in mental health programs in the workplace will give you a return of $2.3 in terms of lowering the absenteeism, lowering the compensation claims, and increasing the productivity. It is time that we need to understand that people are burning out in their institutions, in their corporate fields. Even if you give them flexible timings, you give them um, work from home opportunities, but the times have changed. It's too many stresses. Actually, the salary they're earning maybe is not enough to fulfill all their needs and all their wants. You know, so it's like that also. That there's a lot of inflation कितनी है अभी आप रमजान में देखते there's so much price inflation, over everything. Then there's so much political instability. फिर हालात खराब है. There's so many things which people have on their mind, at the back of their mind. So I think सबसे important चीज तो ये है कि we first of all, as a company, I think we need to initiate some programs. Try test the waters at least. You can just test the waters. ये जो साया हेल्थ है, साया हेल्थ ने काफी कॉर्पोरेट कंपनीज के साथ काम करना शुरू किया है. सो दे हैव सो आई वाज रीडिंग ऑन इन जियो न्यूज कि उसमें आया था कि बेयर के साथ उन्होंने काम किया. सो बेयर वालों ने खुद उनकी जो द पर्सन पॉइंट ऑफ कांटेक्ट इन बेयर, she said herself that there has been a remarkable increase in the productivity since mental health programs were there. Now एक कंपनी तो नहीं सब कुछ कर सकती, और फिर हर कंपनी लाइक इट साइजेस डिफरेंट है. सो आई थिंक बहुत जरूरत है कि हम स्टार्ट करें. वी कैन टेस्ट द वाटर्स, वी कैन इनिशिएट with support groups. Maybe we can initiate with smaller workshops which are on mental health. We can start with screening. Maybe we have a screening, then after the
screening का तो स्टिग्मा है.
तो
स्क्रीनिंग का पता है क्या? अगेन अच्छा, इसमें मैं दो बातें कहूंगी. एक तो ये कि जैसे आप जैसे लेट्स से कनाडा, यूएस या कोई भी डेवलप्ड कंट्री, वहां पर दे एक्चुअली जब आपको हायर कर रहे होते हैं, दे आस्क यू कि अगर आप इफ यू सफरिंग फ्रॉम समथिंग, तो उसमें डिप्रेशन का भी ऑप्शन होता है कि इफ यू हैव एवर बीन डायग्नोज्ड या इस तरह, रादर बल्कि एंड दे ओपनली से कि दिस इज नॉट गोइंग टू अफेक्ट योर हायरिंग प्रोसेस के ऊपर कोई इम्पैक्ट नहीं होगा इसका. एंड दे वही डाइवर्सिटी एंड इंक्लूजन की जो बात है ना, तो दे आर इंक्लूसिव. एंड अब तो आई थिंक दे कॉल इट अ डिसेबिलिटी ऑल्सो, not in the negative sense, but जैसे कि there are people with special needs या neurodivergent लोग होते हैं, इस तरीके से डिप्रेशन से जो अफेक्टेड लोग हैं उसको भी दे काइंड ऑफ इंक्लूडेड इन देयर डाइवर्सिटी एंड इंक्लूजन प्रोग्राम. सो लेकिन कमिंग बैक टू योर पॉइंट जो आपने कहा स्क्रीनिंग की बात, तो एक कॉर्पोरेट कल्चर में एक पाकिस्तानी एनवायरनमेंट की बात करें, मतलब स्क्रीनिंग करवाना अपनी फॉर दिस मेंटल वेलबीइंग, और उसमें स्क्रीनिंग में कोई भी वो आ सकता है ना. सो देन दैट आल्सो थ्रू योर एम्प्लॉयर, मतलब कि उनको ना सिर्फ ये डर हुआ कि मुझे पागल समझा जाएगा, बल्कि मेरी नौकरी भी चली जाएगी. मतलब मैं आपको फियर बता रही हूँ.
यही तो अलमिया है कि इंस्टेड ऑफ हेल्पिंग, मतलब nobody wants to come out and accept कि I am having some kind of a problem, जब तक कि बिल्कुल ही वो बर्न आउट नहीं हो चुका होता. So ये आपकी बड़ी सही बात है. और मजे की बात तो ये है कि I tried doing that. I thought कि as part of my research paper, so what I'll do is that in I chose sorry. So I thought कि in my for my research paper, so मैंने सोचा कि जब मैं ये कर रही थी प्रोग्राम्स वाला ही, तो मैंने इसका एक डायमेंशन ही निकाला कि what I'll do is I'll do a bit of screening also. ठीक है. तो मैंने कहा कि what I'll do is I will choose one of the screening tools which are for general public, So they are, so we have this whole booklet in which there are different kind of screening tools which are to see or evaluate the mental health of general public. क्या आप उनका कर सकते हैं. तो I thought कि I can do that, and maybe when उसमें मेरे जो आएगा stats, So what I'll do is say if that's the case, that we can provide them with some kind of a mental health program or support group, or maybe some kind of one-to-one counseling, whatever is the requirement, and that is going to help company by increasing their business performance, because it has a direct effect that was already proven through the literature that I'd done. So unfortunately, you're right. It's so stigmatized. Nobody wanted to
Get
sit
screened.
through a screening test that easily within a company, within a company. Individually, maybe yes, but sitting within a company and the company knows that we are going to do that. So it is still a bit of a stigma. It is unfortunately a bit of a stigma. But I think since the COVID, it has become a bit better. I think people are still talking about it. I think general public is talking about it. I see on social media all the time. I see on LinkedIn all the time. I see that the first step has been taken. So आपका general public has started talking about it. Celebrities have started talking about it. अब आप देखें ना मतलब आपका जो ये podcast भी है, it is actually talking about mental health in a very open way. It's like it's really giving me a chance to speak, and so it's I think it needs to become a conversation in order to
Exactly.
change that stigma to a support. It needs to start as a conversation. It can be you can agree with the conversation, you can not agree with the conversation, but there has to be conversation. So I think it has started since the pandemic. Young people, the Gen Zs, they have
Hmm.
actually started talking about it. They're starting to it's more easy for them to reach out. I see that we get calls from them. So people have started to, young people especially, they find that it's okay to go for a counseling session or a talk therapy session. So they're still so ये पॉजिटिविटी आई है आई थिंक नीचे से जब जनरल पब्लिक पुश करती है तो ऊपर जाके आपके एडवोकेट्स ग्रुप कुछ लेजिस्लेशन में चेंज ला सकते हैं it has to start like a movement. It has to start from the bottom top, so the general public will have to start. Then even in our educational institute, आप जो children के बच्चों के schools हैं वहां पे अब लोगों ने wellness counselors रखने शुरू कर दिए हैं. People have wellness counselors in schools, primary schools, secondary schools. पहले सिर्फ आपके जो O levels or A levels में you only have career counselors or vocational counselors. Now you have wellness counselors also, which is a very positive thing. Even in Institute of Business Management, they have wellness counselors now. So
Okay.
yes, so I think it's a very positive thing that's started to happen now. So slowly and gradually, I think, as you said, maybe 2 generations down the road, it will become much better. But I think the movement has started. I think the word has started. I think the voice, people are actually talking about it. So, and they're okay with talking about it. So, ये थोड़ा सा, I think it's a silver lining now we see. Still a long way to go, no doubt. क्योंकि अभी भी मुझे लगता है कि counseling पे आने से थोड़ा सा problem होता है लोगों को. फिर उसके बाद they also don't understand कि a counselor is also giving their time, which needs to have some kind of a payment. And even if they're not going to administer any medication, but they even that one session in which they have actually listened or talked or whatever they did. So I think ये एक चीज है कि थोड़ा सा मसला होता है लोगों को to to
Spend money on
justify
their mental well-being.
the cost of the counseling session, I believe. So I think you would agree with me on that. बट मुझे लगता
Totally.
है कि थोड़ा सा ऐसे पुश होता रहेगा एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट्स में होगा फिर आपके रिसर्चेस इस पे रिसर्च होगी जैसे पाकिस्तान में व्हेन आई वाज लुकिंग थ्रू लिटरेचर आई डिडंट फाइंड any a lot of research. I did find research on clinical psychology from the mental health practitioners point of view, but nothing with respect to जैसे अभी मैंने प्राइस वाटर हाउस कूपर को किया है तो इतना ज्यादा पाकिस्तान में रिसर्च नहीं हुई थी
How
from the medical
different
point of
is it now in the past 3 to 4 years? Okay, how comfortable are people about, talking about mental well-being? Uh, and also, जहाँ तक बात है Gen Z तो I really respect that generation because like I really have high hopes from them because they're very good. But जो पुरानी generation है ना, I am a millennial. मुझसे भी पहले की जो generations हैं, they are not only causing the stigma, but they're, part of the problem also at times. So future generations से तो I still have hopes कि they're going to sort it out for themselves. लेकिन जो हमारी जनरेशन है या उससे भी पहले की जनरेशन है, what do you think कि उनके अंदर ये अवेयरनेस कितनी सक्सेसफुली हम कर पा रहे हैं, या what is the gap and what needs to be done?
I think awareness आ गई है, awareness है. I still think there's stigma in reaching out to counselors, because definitely no parent wants their child to reach out to a counselor, because uh, uh, it might, like you said, कि जो हमारी Gen Z उनके जो parents हैं वो तो either will be millennials or Gen X, right? So वो जो पेरेंट्स हैं और उनकी जो तरबियत हुई है, नो पेरेंट वांट्स देयर चाइल्ड टू गो to maybe have some kind of a mental health problem, because it might signify or symbolize that they have been bad parents, maybe, so nobody wants to be guilty of that. So I think that's the reason that people are not readily coming to counselors, although I think there's no harm in sitting, even one sitting with a counselor, like a couple of sittings, whatever kind of counselor you need, कोई इसमें हर्ज नहीं है. But still, I think if I empathize with them, I would say that I think the parents, as you said, they also do not want, they don't want that guilt in them. I think कि मेरा बच्चा ऐसा हो सकता है, या मेरा बच्चा can be going through some kind of a mental or emotional well-being problem. So I think ये भी एक बड़ा reason है. खैर हमारे जो Gen Z के बच्चे हैं, जो छोटे बच्चे हैं, they are all very much aware of mental health. I think उनकी जो school and college है, I think, and the social media that they have, and the kind of movies that are also coming nowadays, I think they're very well aware, and they're very vocal about it also, and they're very I think आप exactly counseling को अगर बीच में ना भी करें, तो they're quite aware of self care now. They are quite aware of these things, as in transforming negative narratives. आप हमारी marketing campaigns ही देख लें. So marketing campaigns हमारी कितनी change हुई हैं. हमारी ये सारी जो corporate की marketing campaigns हैं, ये भी तो real life से inspire होती हैं. ये जो हमारी campaigns आती हैं, जैसे अगर फेयर एंड लवली को ग्लो एंड लवली कर दिया उन्होंने आज, so that is being inspired by the new generation now, because they want to reach out to the new generation, and they know the new generation does not want that kind of a discrimination based on their color. So they're more kind of inclusive. So ye change kiya hai. All these ads like Dove talking about real beauty, and real women, so all these different things that L'Oreal talking about, how everybody's worth it, I'm worth it. And, so all these different marketing campaigns which are coming nowadays, even in Pakistan, we are showing, like even a small thing like Hilal Cupcake shows a working mother. Shan Masalas is very much into women empowerment nowadays. So they're talking about bahus who are working, they're talking about women who are working, they're talking about doctors who are working, Ariel, they're talking about sharing the load and that kind of a thing. So all these marketing campaigns, if I see, they're all trying to transform the negative narrative. And I think we can have a whole big seminar on that also, that how the corporate world, like, so it's all, and it's changing globally. आप पाकिस्तान में देखें, आप अब बहुत कम ऐसे ऐड हैं जो कि जैसे आप मैकडोनल्ड्स का ऐड देखेंगे जिसमें वो दिखाएंगे disability special people are being hired, like people who are deaf and people who have some kind of a disability, they will be hired. So they're showing a lot of inclusion. I think voice has stuck it. Again, I will say that it's still a stigma to go out to the counselor, but the voice is there. People are talking about it. और ये जो हमारे न्यू जनरेशन है, इसी ने ये पहल की है, इसलिए इन्होंने पहल की है, तभी तो हमारी कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड की पूरी कैंपेन्स चेंज होती जा रही है आहिस्ता आहिस्ता.
ये तो खैर, this is my favorite topic, and I have this, I am I silently watch these ads and analyze the whole impact that is going to have. और या पहले जमाने में जैसे ads होते थे, rather I was explaining it to my mother last week कि अम्मी आपने ad देखे कि I was actually showing her probably that ad वो आजकल bake parlor का एक आया था where they're supposed to go and see वो लड़के की माँ होती है, they're supposed to go to the girl's house. So the guy tells
Mm-hmm.
his mother कि you tell me that we should respect women, and now you are making me go and uh, look at them like they're in a showcase.
Absolutely.
And then yeah, so एक तो I really loved that ad. फिर एक और ad सिरिलैक का था that I was telling my mother कि पहले सिरिलैक के ads में they used to show mothers only. Now the line this year was कि समझदार माँ, and then वो कहती है दादी भी. So because the culture is changing, mothers are working and
Absolutely. Absolutely.
uh,
और ये बड़ी अच्छी एक पॉजिटिव चेंज है जो हम देख रहे हैं अब अपने इर्द गिर्द. और आप सोचिए ना, तो ये सारी वॉइस आई है जनरल पब्लिक से. सो ओवरऑल ट्रेंड्स देख के आपकी कैंपेन्स बनती है ना. So they're also inspired from real life situations and the trending topics. आपकी marketing campaign तो हमेशा trending topics पे बनती है ना. Whatever is trending, mental health trending करता है तो mental health पे बना देते हैं. You know, so whatever is trending, I think the corporate world, the marketing campaigns, are designed accordingly. So अब बड़ा अच्छा है क्योंकि जब वो होता है तो mass media पे आता है, social media पे आता है. You know, हमें जब मुझे याद है पहली दफा शान की बिरयानी मसाला का ऐड आया था, and this boy tried to cook in London or somewhere, and he was studying somewhere,
yeah.
and it was really emotional. Even multi-form का ऐड जिसपे वो पूरे जिंदगी से they're marrying and the concept is around father-daughter relationship and marriage, उसके अंदर भी they have added the element of the daughter going for university education. The last ad which was featuring Mahira Khan and Adnan Siddiqui, it showed a
Mm-hmm.
specific, जिसमें उन्होंने दिखाया ये चीज, which was a change. So slow bits में change आ रहा है, but इंशाल्लाह आएगा. I think we are hopeful it will come. एक बड़ा अच्छा मैंने KDSP का देखा. KDSP वाले बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं, कराची डाउन सिंड्रोम प्रोग्राम वाले. तो उनका एक मैस मीडिया में एड मैंने देखा टीवी पे, and that was brilliant. That was such a brilliant ad and such an inclusive ad. I'll share the link with you actually of that ad. I have it. मुझे बड़ा अपील किया क्योंकि it really touched all the right nuances. So I really liked that. I think I'll share it to you after this.
Sure, but I would love for you to talk about it on the podcast also. What was it? Tell me.
So it was really about this mother who जिसको कहा गया कि you're a sorry mother and we're sorry. So when the nurse brought the child to the mother, the nurse said, "I'm so sorry," because the child had Down syndrome, and Down syndrome is a genetic disorder also.
Yeah.
So there's an extra chromosome. So वो उसने I'm sorry कहा. फिर किसी और ने उसको कहा कि काश तुम माँ बनती ही नहीं. किसी माँ ने ये कहा आगे से. फिर किसी ने कुछ और कमेंट किया जैसे हमारी सोसाइटी करती है. So these are all triggers which are actually causing this mental health and well-being issues. So फिर उस मदर ने कहा, she took a stand. So the mothers need to take that stand. So she said, I'm not a sorry mother. Sorry, I'm not going to be a sorry mother. क्योंकि मेरे बच्चे के पास something special है. And then they showed how the child was playing, how the child was studying, how the child was involved in different activities. And it was, I think the ad was Karachi Down Syndrome Program ka ad tha. I really appreciated the ad because it was really, a very good ad. I really felt very emotional looking at the ad. Because we've seen it around us. We've seen such people around us कि कोई भी चीज गलत नॉर्म से हो जाती है तो हम फिर उस पे तनकीद करते हैं. So so इस तरह की छोटी छोटी चीजें अगर आप देखें अपने इर्द गिर्द तो पॉजिटिव रीअफर्मेशंस मिलती हैं आपको.
Yeah.
So we all need to try, I think, together to change the negative narratives. I think we all need to have a voice. I think we all need to work towards reducing the stigma. And फिर मैं केयर फॉर हेल्थ की बात करूंगी कि केयर फॉर
नहीं
हेल्थ
बिल्कुल करें.
इसी पे ही काम कर रहा है आजकल कि that's the sole purpose of the support groups that we're doing, the webinars we do, the community outreach programs we do, the counseling we do. Even in the counseling we charge a very nominal rate actually.
Mm-hmm.
We don't charge too much because we want to reach the masses. So we don't want कि mental health की जो भी आए तो they only are restricted to a particular niche. So I think the masses need to uh, be able to access it. It needs to become more accessible. तो अगर आपके प्लेटफॉर्म से भी if anybody needs any kind of counseling service, any kind of workshop, corporate or in schools or for the youth, so we are there. We will also be doing some independent workshops also, inshallah,
Okay.
and we'll let you know. Madhya.
श्योर श्योर डेफिनेटली. मुझे ये बताएं कि कॉर्पोरेट में आपने अभी जिक्र किया था कि जैसे कि कई ऑर्गेनाइज, जैसे आपने एक फार्मास्यूटिकल की एग्जांपल दी थी कि दे हैव सीन चेंजेस एंड सो लाइक
Yeah.
व्हाट इज द ओवरऑल
And
रिस्पांस इन कॉर्पोरेट?
और वो जो फार्मास्यूटिकल कंपनी है उस उधर साया हेल्थ इनिशिएटेड
अच्छा.
Saya Health initiated. I'm a very much person who likes to give credit to everyone who's working in the field of mental health because I don't think we can change the narrative without collaboration.
टोटली.
You know. So yes, so Saya Health made that, and Saya Health is doing a lot of work not only in Pakistan but internationally also
ओके.
in that regard. So CareForHealth is also doing, which is doing in Pakistan at the moment. And we're also trying to reach out not to just the bigger companies, actually want to reach out to the mid-range companies, mid-tier companies also, and startups also. Because I think the rates that we charge are pretty nominal. So we would like to reach out to all these different companies which are mid-tier or which are startups. Because I think startups jab hoti hain, so there also you need to maintain that work-life balance. So hamari we have those kind of workshops aligned in our
So what's
program.
the response from corporate? Like, are people?
मजे की बात है आज ही मेरी वो जो बिजनेस डेवलपमेंट एग्जीक्यूटिव हैं
Mhm.
अंजिला you've met her.
Yeah, yeah.
So जी तो वो जो है वो मुझे कही थी कि मैम ये एक दो कंपनीज ने हमें कहा है कि हमारे पास आके कर ले बट उन्होंने कहा फ्री में कर दें आके तो that's how it is apparently at the moment because not everybody is understanding the return on investment on investing in a mental health program at the moment as you can see. तो लेकिन आहिस्ता आहिस्ता भी चेंज होगा नैरेटिव इंशाल्लाह.
Okay. I think a proposal to the management showing them the, ROI thing. Probably, HR is not that experienced in selling this to the management. क्योंकि ये अब दिस इज अ न्यू कॉन्सेप्ट राइट. वर्क प्लेस के मेंटल हेल्थ वेलनेस की ही मतलब इतनी कम बात होती है तो वर्क प्लेस में तो खैर बात ही छोड़ दें आप. बट सो एचआर जो है ना वो they are generally known to bring cases of picnics and birthdays and celebrations. तो मैनेजमेंट ना उनका कोई भी लाया हुआ प्रपोजल देखने से पहले ही सोचती कि ओहो ये तो पैसे खर्च करवाने आ गए. आई एम जस्ट
हाँ
टेलिंग यू फ्रॉम द अदर साइड ऑफ द टेबल के क्या होता है कंपनी में. तो
you've been in company for such a long time in the corporate
yeah.
world, yes.
So, and I was actually heading a whole department in my previous job. So I was kind of, directly involved with the management. So I know that jab, I was from sales and, I was sales wala to khair, that's not a problem. Sales wala is the king. Agar wo apne aap ko samajh le. And, because you bring in the revenue, so you are at a very good place where you can negotiate stuff. But HR एक तो मतलब वैसे ही आप छोड़ें मेंटल वेलबींग तो छोड़ें आप जनरल एचआर को ही एक कंपनी में सबसे नीचे जगह दी जाती है कि हाँ ठीक है सपोर्ट फंक्शन है ये वो. मतलब कि मिड मिड साइज कंपनीज में तो आप समझें कि बस गुजारा है. लाइक हाई एंड कॉर्पोरेट्स में तो चले इट्स अ होल डिपार्टमेंट प्रॉपर स्ट्रक्चर के साथ दे फंक्शनिंग दे डूइंग व्हाट दे सपोज टू डू. लेकिन मिड वाली में तो एचआर एडमिन सब एक ही बंदा देख लेता है. So,
You're right.
so they taking, proposal to their management. वो बोलेंगे तुम फिर कोई खर्चा करवाने आ गए हो, तुम कोई पिकनिक का बजट मांगने आ गए होगे टाइप की बात ना. सो सो आई वाज सेइंग कि ये जो सीईओज हैं या ये जो मैनेजमेंट है इन कंपनीज की, probably we should find another way to take that proposal to them and who can actually show them कि भाई ROI इसका है क्या. And probably rather इन सबको इकट्ठा करके कोई एक सेमिनार होना चाहिए where उनको बताए कोई कि इसमें इन्वेस्ट करने से क्या होगा. Maybe और
That's a good idea also. जितना मैंने आपसे बात किया, I think I can actually इसी ये जो ROI के टॉपिक के ऊपर we can further take it like कि how we can calculate the ROI कि एक का कितना पैसे लगते हैं और how what's the ROI, so maybe we can draw a correlation on that.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
मुझे ये बताएं कि
हाँ जी बोलिए.
आप पहले अपनी बात कंप्लीट करें.
नहीं, आई वाज जस्ट सेइंग कि आप सेल्स डिपार्टमेंट की आप बात कर रही थी, एंड आई वाज थिंकिंग कि सेल्स डिपार्टमेंट जो है जो सबसे ज्यादा फील्ड पे जाता है एक्चुअली, सो आई थिंक उनको तो सबसे ज्यादा जरूरत है कि वो उनके साथ कोपिंग स्ट्रेटजीज, और क्योंकि जब वो जाते हैं फील्ड में तो आई एम श्योर दे हैव टू फेस अ लॉट ऑफ एडवर्सरीज आल्सो, बिकॉज पाकिस्तान की सेल्स फील्ड इज नॉट लाइक एन एयर कंडीशनड फील्ड. So when they're going
कहीं भी
into
नहीं
the
है दुनिया,
field,
पूरी दुनिया में सेल्स वालों का एक ही हाल है.
So I think they face a lot of adversaries, different clients, whether you're doing personal selling one to one or you're going for like an FMCG sales distribution. So either ways, I think it's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of sweat, and I think they face a lot of adversity, and I think they're in a big need for a mental health program which talks about managing stress or avoiding burnout or even like empathizing with them. Like,
So, Ambreen, हमने आपका बहुत वक्त ले लिया है, एंड आई थिंक कमिंग टू द लास्ट क्वेश्चन. पॉडकास्ट तो अभी बहुत लंबी बन सकती है, एंड इंशाल्लाह फ्यूचर में आपको दोबारा जहमत देंगे. बट जस्ट टू रैप इट अप, आज का मकसद ये था कि हम वी टच अपॉन सर्टेन पॉइंट्स. So the last and the most important aspect of the discussion should be and will be कि हम जिस तरह मेंटल वेलबींग की बात कर रहे थे इन वर्क प्लेस, आप if people who are listening to this, if they're employees, if they're working somewhere, especially in corporate culture, तो उनके लिए I would say कि tell them how do they help themselves or even identify कि वो कितना बर्नआउट हो रहे हैं. या क्योंकि पता है प्रॉब्लम क्या होती है, प्रॉब्लम ये होती है कि वो जो जॉब डिस्क्रिप्शन आती है ना, जब नौकरी अनाउंस होती है वैकेंसी, उसमें लिखा होता है कि शुड बी एबल टू हैंडल प्रेशर एंड वर्क अंडर स्ट्रेस. तो क्या होता है कि जब एम्प्लॉय काम करता है, अब उसको ना समझ नहीं आ रही होती है कि मेरे बर्नआउट का जो थ्रेशोल्ड है वो मैं कब मीट करूंगा. ऐसा ना हो कि मैं ये बोलूं या ये फील करूं कि मैं बर्नआउट हो रहा हूं तो कहीं इट डजंट डिस्क्वालीफाई मी फ्रॉम द पोजीशन, नॉट इन टर्म्स ऑफ लाइक किसी के सामने, बट अपनी नजरों में ना दे डोंट वांट टू एक्नॉलेज द फैक्ट के, क्योंकि अगर वो एक्नॉलेज कर लेंगे कि देयर इज टू मच प्रेशर, देन उनका इंटरनल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट शुरू हो जाता है कि यार टू मच प्रेशर, लेकिन मैं तो नौकरी की थी तो मुझे तो बता दिया गया था कि देयर इज गोइंग टू बी टू मच प्रेशर. तो ये कोड कैसे कोई क्रैक कर सकता है? टेल समथिंग अबाउट दिस.
Okay, Madhya, thank you so much, first of all, for inviting me. And I think it was a really nice discussion. And I did not know how fast the time actually passed. And I think for each topic that we discussed, we can have another webinar, or another podcast. So, coming to your question, I think it is, you're absolutely right. Sometimes I also don't know okay, when I'm kind of burning out because there's too much on our plates, so this, and you don't know, you're trying to put everything in that plate. And there's like social life, work life, family life, and work pressures आजकल इतने ज़्यादा हैं, आप डरते हैं, because the unemployment is there, inflation is there, you're at the risk of losing your job. And then I think sometimes some companies take advantage of that. They just say like,
Totally.
just, get lost. Maybe, we don't need you anymore. We'll hire somebody else. And there's always somebody else to fill up that position also. So I understand the fears. There's very true fears, I think. But I think having said that, nobody is more important than you. I think self-care is extremely important. You need to do self-care. So if you don't have time, at least, ये जो आप बात करी थी initially of mindfulness, I think mindfulness के भी और अंदर अगर हम जाएं, तो इवन ब्रीदिंग, just a breathing, diaphragm breathing कर लें. You know, there is 4-7-8 breathing style है. आप online जाएंगे, you'll find it that, you know, in which you can, like, you know, for 4 seconds you inhale, then 7 seconds you hold, then 8 seconds you breathe out. Take time for yourself. Even sitting in that chair, you can do that. Then you have grounding techniques in which you can, if everything, sometimes I mean, I'm writing a paper or I'm doing some work, you know, or I'm, you know, there's so many things that you have on your plate. So your eyes start to burn out actually also, you know. So at that time, you know, just need to close your eyes. You need to sit down, do some grounding for yourself. Grounding techniques use करें, breathing
Okay.
techniques use करें. So this is extremely important. एक sorry एक चीज और बताना चाह रही थी.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, I think, extremely important. Uh, Also, if you can easily reach out. Now we have a lot of helplines also.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is something bothering you, you think that you're reaching that burnout stage, you know, so you
My
reach out
question
to the
is
helplines.
कि उनको
Yes.
पता कैसे चलेगा कि we're reaching that burnout, क्योंकि वो
Acha,
acknowledge नहीं
yes.
कर.
So you're right. Absolutely. So there are three things I mentioned in well-being. So there was emotional, there was psychological, and there was social. So सबसे पहले तो आप अपने emotions को देखेंगे कि what kind of emotions are you having. So मैं हमेशा किसी भी सेमिनार में कहती हूँ, सबसे पहली चीज है, you need to understand your emotion. आपका जो भी इमोशन फील कर रहे हैं, सो अगर आपको गुस्सा चढ़ रहा है, इमोशन है ना, यू फीलिंग एंग्री, वो इमोशन जो है उसकी वजह से आपको गुस्सा आया है, आप फ्रस्ट्रेटेड फील कर रहे हैं, अपसेट हैं, आपको रोना आ रहा है, ठीक है, आप बहुत हंस रहे हैं, आप सो रहे हैं, आप यू नो, सो वट एवर, सो रहे हैं तो फिजिकल एलिमेंट है, बट लाइक यू नो, you understand what I'm saying, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you have any kind of emotion, that's a symptom. So you have to understand the symptoms of mental health. So that's one symptoms, which are emotional symptoms. Then you have psychological symptoms. If you're always having these complaints in your mind, or some negative affirmations or negative thoughts coming, you know, or even negative thoughts which can be thoughts like, you know, I wish I, you know, some kind of suicidal thoughts maybe, or something like, you know, hurting yourself thoughts, anything, you need to reach out to a helpline. There's so many helplines available. The scheme ki free helpline hai, monk ki free helpline hai. You can reach out to us. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
can guide you how to manage. We have a number on our website also. All
Okay.
right, and yeah, so we have a number. We have an email address on our website. So you can reach out to us through that. So there's a lot of helplines and they're doing good work. I think वो आपको reach out करनी चाहिए. Again, psychological जो भी thoughts हैं आपकी, and then thoughts will turn into actions. कभी आप बहुत सोते रह रहे हैं, सुबह उठने को दिल नहीं कर रहा, कुछ एक है आपको गुस्सा आ रहा है, एक है आपने किसी कुछ तोड़ दिया, you know. So it's like a behavioral element of that anger. ठीक है, सो ये सारी चीजें आपने अपने देखने हैं. आपने व्हाट आर यू थिंकिंग, व्हाट आर यू फीलिंग, हाउ आर यू एक्टिंग नाउअडेज, व्हाट आर यू डूइंग, आर यू, यू नो. सो ये सारे सिम्टम्स हैं, वी कॉल देम सिम्टम्स. सिम्टम होते हैं ना, आपको पता है कि मेरे, यू नो, कि मेरे सर में दर्द हो रही है, सिम्टम है ना कि यहाँ पे हो रही है तो माइग्रेन है, तो यू नो मेरा ब्लड प्रेशर है तो यहाँ पे दर्द हो रही है. सो यू हैव ऑल दीज सिम्टम्स फॉर डायग्नोसिस. So these are all symptoms of mental health and well-being. So अगर ये continuously हो रहे हैं, it's being repeated. एक होता है एग्जाम है, स्ट्रेस हुआ है, पेट में दर्द हो गई, you know, अक्सर बच्चों के साथ होता है. So एक ही स्ट्रेस है which maybe, you know, that stress is okay, that's an optimal level stress, ठीक है. Once you gave the paper, you go back to normal. Okay, fine, right? But if it's this stress, this anxiety, this feeling of sadness, this low mood, depression, you know, whatever you want to call it, these emotions are continuously happening to you, you need to seek out help. That's what I say. So these are symptoms. We need to find out symptoms. दो चीजें we need to understand: the symptoms, which we can understand, and then the triggers. What triggers it? ठीक है, ये हमें अंडरस्टैंड करना चाहिए कि ट्रिगर्स मैं पहले इनिशियली आपको बता चुकी हूँ. द फिजिकल ट्रिगर्स, the interpersonal triggers, the intrapersonal triggers, and the environmental triggers. So triggers होते हैं environment में, ठीक है, उसकी वजह से आप पे इफेक्ट होता है, आपको सिम्टम्स आते हैं, ठीक है, जैसे बारिश होती है, ठीक है ना, आपको फ्लू हो जाता है, सिम्टम होता है. ट्रिगर क्या है? बारिश ने ट्रिगर कर दिया फ्लू. सो सिमिलरली सम ट्रिगर happened, and you have these symptoms, और ये symptoms अगर repeat होते रह रहे, so they can become chronic stress हो सकता है आपको, ठीक है? So and that then it will start affecting with your daily life, how you cope, it will affect that, और in the long run, believe me, या एक चीज पे मैं end करना चाहूंगी, we are all replaceable, ठीक है? We are all easily replaceable, ठीक है? But we are not insignificant, okay? If I leave my job, somebody else will replace me, okay? So, but I come first. I'm not insignificant, so I have to take care of myself. Nobody else is going to come and take care of you. You have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your mental health. Because आप हैं तो क्या कहते हैं? आप हैं तो जहां हैं, और आपके इर्द गिर्द के सारे लोग भी हैं जो आप पे
And
डिपेंड हैं.
yeah, and on a closing note, I would also want to uh, acknowledge the fact जो आपने कहा कि सेल्फ प्रायोरिटाइजेशन, मतलब कि आपने जिस तरह रिप्लेसमेंट की बात की, तो एक फियर होता है कि मेरी जगह कोई और ना ले ले. तो अगर आप ही अपने आप को सबसे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंस नहीं देंगे तो फिर कोई और क्या देगा? सो
Absolutely. Because again, रूमी के कोट पे आप खत्म करें, you're not a drop in the ocean, you're a whole
you're the
ocean in a
ocean.
drop,
Yeah,
ठीक है?
totally.
So you're not insignificant, you can bring change, you can do anything. Take care of yourself.
Definitely.
Right? एक जिंदगी मिलती है, take care of yourself. But work hard. I'm not against working hard. We're all working hard. Work hard, definitely. But take care of yourself.
Yeah. And the Rumi quote is really good. I really like it now. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sparing so much time with us. And inshallah, आपसे जल्दी मुलाकात करेंगे दोबारा.
बिल्कुल. Let's meet in person, Madhya.
Sure.
We'll meet in person. Yeah.
Sure, definitely. Okay.
Okay, really nice
Thank
talking
you.
to you.
Thank you. My pleasure. Okay, Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.